What's up, Digidestined? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be talking none other than being able to counteract the 7 great demon lords. So people are going to be facing this competitively going forwards into even the next set and future sets, especially once they get Shoto. Shoto makes that deck a little more scarier, a little bit more annoying to deal with. And they do have counterplays to some of these stuff we do, but there are sometimes you can just shut them down for a little bit. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. First off, we do have Gate of the Deadly Sins. So this card is your first card you have to start realizing what you need to counteract with it. First off, it is its breeding effect here. So when a 7 great demon lord trait Digimon would be deleted, you may reduce the play cost by 3. If this Digimon has 5 or more Digievolutions with different names, you may reduce the play cost by 4 instead. So being able to activate the reduction is vital. So there are a lot of cards that say, no, we're not going to let you reduce the play cost, which is vitally important to slow this card down a little bit. But you also have to take into account that it deletes the board every single time. So there's only a very few cards that literally say rush, I can attack the same turn. So with that information, you can actually slow the gate down pretty quickly and annoy them very fast. But you also have like Ogudamon himself that is going to come out for free. This is the point in contention here. As the end opponent's turn, delete this thing with 7 more Digievolutions with different names. You may play 1 Ogudamon from your trash without paying its cost. Since an effect that is playing it, you can shut down the effect as well. So keeping that in mind, you want to shut down Ogudamon's when attacking skill, because that's vitally important. If you shut down the when attacking, you're in a good spot to be able to prevent death, but you also want to prevent it from being played. So each time you have, they're going to try to, because they have to pop it on their turn, and all you have to do is replay another blocker that will say, or effect that will stop the Ogudamon coming out. They can't win properly without having Ogudamon come out. So just keep that in mind. But in red, we can take a look here. We have Solarmon that can slow down the Gate of 7 Deadly Sins itself. Being able to prevent it from reducing the play cost means they have to use their resources to play out their characters. And if they're giving you 10, you get the world a bit. So sometimes just having that giving you 10, you can probably get to your other answers and slow them down as well. Gutsumon is another one that just shuts down Ogudamon for the turn. And being able to shut down Ogudamon for the turn is huge. Then you have like Crimson Blaze, that's also the same thing. Can't play by effects. And they can't just instantly pop the Gutsumon. So if you can stop them in any of these capacities, this will prevent them from going off. And this will slow the deck down by a lot. Then we do have blue. Blue has a lot of decent ways of dealing with it. Since a lot of the demon lords, all the demon lords, let's be honest, all relate to being based around the effect of being deleted. If you can bounce them in any capacity, bottom deck them, any way, shape, or form, that slows the deck down immensely, because the gate doesn't see anything and pops anything, it doesn't get to tuck anything. So you slow down their process and make them have a bad time. So cards like Mirage, Galga that can bounce their lower end. The same thing with Galgamon. What's really nasty to them is Zudamon Ace as well. If you just hard play the Zudamon Ace and bounce the threat back to their hand, that demon lord isn't going to get its on deletion or anything like that. So now they're set back on a clock that they're not going to like. So keeping that in mind with Zudamon Ace being able to, if you just hard play it, you bounce the threat. Now their turn is kind of screwed up, and if they have to replay the same demon lord, if it wasn't a scary enough demon lord that can answer Zudamon Ace right away, you're in a good spot. So just keeping this in mind of how game strats go, you want to keep that in mind. And also having an Imperial Dramon Dragon mode really annoys them, because if you get it set up when they are about to drop their Ogudamon, you can have their Ogudamon go off, and then, you know, it's on play triggers, because it is your turn priority, so their effect doesn't get to tuck anything yet. You can just go from Imperial Dramon Dragon mode right into Imperial Dramon Ace, and then you can suspend the Agudamon with no sources because it hasn't had a chance to tuck them because you are still turn priority player. You just, because it's the end of your turn that it plays, you then basically tuck it, you know, suspend it and bottom it to the end of your opponent's deck. That makes them have such a hard time answering it. It's ridiculous. Another card that kind of does a little bit of cleanup too, especially in the early games, if you can just get Gabumon Friendship bouncing their level 3s and lowers, your opponent's just going to have issues. And I mean straight issues, because until they start slamming down level 6s, they're not going to be able to handle you just going to town on their security. Just keep this in mind. And then options like Full Moon Meteor Impact, just being able to return cards to their hand, Mega Death, or returning Giga Death, bottom decking, stuff like that does matter. And then you have like Vikemon Ace as well, because if you can swing in with Vikemon Ace, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with one or fewer Digi-Evolutions. So all the 7 Great Demon Lords do have no sources by that point. Most of them will not be any threat to you. So just keeping this in mind, that Vikemon Ace is going to just apply pressure. So even though you kind of speed them up, if you just stop, they're only going to be able to get 1 in if they have an on deletion effect, and that's by you putting it there. But if they do the gate, they get 2. So if you can stop the gate from blowing things up, that's kind of the ideal world you want to be in. Then kind of the only really thing in yellow that kind of just stops the gate, stops Agudamon itself, is Cutemon and Venusmon. You want to take those into account, because if you can shut them down with Cutemons and Venusmons, you're in a good spot. I mean, Venusmon prevents the when attacking skill of Agudamon itself. So when they do their combo shenanigans, Agudamon will have -1 security attack. So it can't even do its when attacking skill because of Venusmon. And then it can't lethal you because Venusmon just shuts that down. So just keeping this in mind, that as long as you keep their security attack off, they're just going to have a bad time. Then you have like Cutemon as well, just because it shuts down Agudamon plays. So if you can just keep slamming down Cutemon after Cutemon, they're just going to have a bad time. They just do not like it. I think green has the worst time kind of answering it. You do have like Grandize Soul and Shine of the Bee, and then Mega Giant Missile. Missile as well. Being able to just get their, you know, Digimon to the bottom of the deck is just what you're going to be praying and hoping for. They're not going to hit your security very often, so a lot of these effects will be coming from your hand, and then you just need to be a little bit bigger or shut them down by suspending stuff. So like RideMyAvatar, so taking into account like RideMyAvatar X as well, this is a great option, because the only viable, and then you have like Tyrant and stuff like that. But with RideMyAvatar X, at least you can get their suspended guys a little bit lower, and then you can swing into them, which then can get you the memory back for your Digi-Evolution costs. It's just, there's not many plays in green besides just trying to swing into their shit. But you have Terriermon. This is just going to help negate the Miss Memory boost, really. That's all you kind of have going for green right now. And that's going to be your biggest downfall, is that you have to rely heavily on your options. And your options of security aren't going to do anything. So, because Agudamon's just going to clear the board. Then in black, it also struggles a little bit, but with coming support of like Dorugamon here, this card has collision, forcing them to block, which means you're not deleting them by an effect, you're deleting them by battle, which prevents them from activating as well. Being able to force them to block and lose out on their resources is vitally key. And if you can just keep that with collision going, you're going to have them have a bad time. So stuff like that is vitally important. And especially because this thing is when Digivolving into Tamer with SOC in its traits, delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon or Tamers. This card will at least pop a Tamer or their, you know, Digimon itself. So that'll help you out. Chikuri just make sure that they can't just play anything. And that's going to be your like best bet in black, is just to have the Chikuris, or if you are playing Collision Dorugamon here, this is your best bet, is just get bigger and just force them to block, lose out on the battle, and then they lose resources. Purple's got a little bit more to play with, which they have access to Psychmon. They have access to their own they have the memory blocker version too, the Gazimon. So both can help slow the deck down, but most of the time, like cards like Biting Crush is going to be your best friend here, because when an opponent plays a Digimon by effect, you're going to answer Orgudamon because you are turn player. So when they play the Orgudamon, if you have a Leviamon with Biting Crush on the field, you'll just, Leviamon comes out, deals with the Orgudamon, and then you delete one of their other Digimon. This can really set them back. Even this Leviamon, because they're going to be hard playing, you can, if this thing is sticking around, if you are playing Levias, this card will just bounce by trashing one card. You know, you can bounce one of their, you know, if they have as many or fewer total Digimon or Tamers, you delete one of their Digimon with no Digivolution cards. Just being able to remove threats is always good, and just you control the board that way. Sevenfold Cluster, delete the lowest level. Most of the times they're going to be their big boys. Rival Blage at least deletes one of their highest levels. And then Fenrir Luga kind of just takes advantage of the board state because of its alliance skill that it has. It just gets bigger than all the Demon Lords, so it just kind of goes to town and can just multi-attack and just clear security pretty quickly. So just keep this in mind, that Fenrir Luga actually is a little bit favored into the 7th Great Demon Lord matchup, just because of the ability to restand, use alliance, get bigger than anything in their security, and then you just clear house. And the only time you really have a bad time is if they hit an option, which will be like Sevenfold Cluster or Biting Crush or Rivals Barrage. Those 3 options alone can really ruin your day. And then in white, you kind of get some decent headway here. The big one is Merciful Mode for right now. This one's going to be able to send things to the bottom of the trash. You will delete one of your opponent's Digimon for each card with Megan's traits in its Digivolution cards. So basically, you can just set them up for failure, which is really good. You want to set them up for failure, because if you can remove the Agudamon from the trash and bottom deck it, make sure you put it as the last card in their deck, because it's going to be harder for them to get to it. So when you return 10 cards, put a Gudamon on the very bottom of that return. So that's going to be vitally important. Merciful Mode is just Merciful Mode. Just being able to set them back by just setting their stuff is really useful. And then you have like Pal Mode Ace, which is going to be vitally important as well, because on play, when Digivolving trash all Digivolution cards of your opponent's Digimon, then return all cards from yours or your opponent's trash to the bottom deck. If an effect returned to white level 7 card, gain 3 memory. But you know, being able to return all cards from your opponent's trash and yours to the bottom of the deck, really nasty. It really punishes the playstyle and really makes it harder for the Agudamon to win. So being able to shut them down is vitally important. So yeah, I think with the Paladin mode being super splashable and being a 9-cost play is going to be vitally scary for any deck to just tech this in. It's going to be one of those well-rounded cards. But all in all, though, I think we have a lot of ways of resource management and stopping a lot of their plays early on so that you can get to the late game and win. Just remember, they do have a lot of big beat stick threats if you take a look at their 7th Great Demon Lord. Attack power. Their attack power. You have 13s, you know, 12s, 11s, and 13s. So keeping that in mind, that 16 is the biggest threshold you have to get over with. Plan your deck building accordingly to deal with it, so that you can just clear out security without breaking a sweat. But all in all, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.